welcome to the deep dive. Today we're wrestling with a way of looking at Scripture that's really challenging, not because it's abstract, but, well, because it's so aggressively literal.
That's right. We're diving into something called impact theology, specifically looking at the ideas from Philip Princeton. And yet, this framework just throws allegory right out the window. It insists every single geographical detail, every physical description in the Bible, it's concrete, material fact.
And their main claim, the thing we really need to unpack for you today, it's pretty radical. Earthly Jerusalem isn't some new holy city. It's the literal physical continuation of the Tower of Babel.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate geographic conspiracy theory, you could say. The argument is that the place of humanity's first big sin, Babel, that ambition, it's the exact same spot reoccupied. That becomes the stage for redemption in Jerusalem.
So our mission here is to investigate how they support this continuity, textually and geographically. And we're going to focus on this one amazing Hebrew phrase, tabur haaretz, the umbilicus of the earth. We need to see if the Scripture itself actually connects the dots across, thousands of years and all those miles between Mesopotamia and Judea.
Okay.
Let's unpack this.
Right. So the premise kicks off with Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel. Impact theology says, look, when God judged Babel, the tower wasn't totally destroyed or abandoned.
Not pulverized.
No. Its foundations, the physical base humans built, they remained. And crucially, they remained on the exact axis God had designated, this vertical connection point.
Okay, so if you're sticking to this strict literalism, you have to believe there's no gap. No ancient battle over here and modern Jerusalem over there. It's just one structure, different points in time, rebuilt, reoccupied.
Precisely. It's all about material continuity. They claim the location, which Genesis 11.2 puts in Shinar, is the same region that later includes western Mesopotamia and Canaan, where Jerusalem is.
Okay.
And get this. They even claim it was rebuilt using the same stones, like the original foundations, the baked clay bricks, mixed maybe with local limestone.
Whoa, hang on. The same stones. Literally. That's a massive claim. I mean, what about the archaeology? The thousands of years, civilizations rising and falling. Is there any physical evidence, or is this just something that theology demands?
It's essentially a theological demand for physical evidence.
Yeah.
Because the system requires literalism, they can't let that axial point move. If humans built there to reach heaven, that physical spot is, for them, permanently marked as the world's vertical center.
Ah, I see.
So any later divine action about that vertical connection must happen on that exact spot. Preserving the stones isn't really an archaeological finding. It's a theological necessity driven by their own rules.
That definitely reframes things. And this continuity, this identity between Babel and Jerusalem, this is what they argue John the Baptist saw in Revelation.
Absolutely. When John writes about the woman called Babylon, usually people say that's Rome. Impact theology insists he's recognizing the physical reality of Jerusalem itself.
Because Jerusalem is sitting right on top of Babel's remains.
Yes. John keeps calling this entity the great city, right? Revelation 17:18. For impact theology, God only recognizes this one city, the one that's continuously claimed that vertical axis since Genesis 11. It is Babel.
Just disguised.
Just disguised as the holy city. So the real city of seven mountains, historically, it's not Rome, it's Jerusalem, the reoccupied Babel.
What's fascinating here is, well, just the sheer insistence that this connection, material and over time, is actual fact, not just a literary theme or a symbol.
Exactly.
They need proof that Scripture itself remembered that original geography, didn't forget the spot.
And that's where we shift, from the stone to the scroll. If we entertain the possibility of material continuity, we still need the text to link Babel's specific vertical axis to Jerusalem centuries later.
Right, and that textual link, it all hangs on that one Hebrew phrase, tabur haaretz.
Correct, the umbilicus of the earth. This phrase is the axial point. If Babel was the site of that first human vertical project, we need proof that this exact spot stayed known as the physical center of the world later in Scripture, way before John the Baptist.
And the key figure bridging that gap from Genesis to Revelation is the prophet Ezekiel.
He is. Ezekiel's crucial. Writing during the Babylonian exile, he somehow preserves the memory of this tabur.
How does he do that?
Well, he makes these explicit geographical claims about Jerusalem. Look at Ezekiel 5.5. He says, talking about Jerusalem, I have set her in the center of the nations with countries all around her. That's already placing it centrally.
Okay, center of the nations. But the really specific bit is later.
Yes, Ezekiel 38.1. Describing the people of Israel, he says they live in the center of the earth, and there he used the exact term tabur. And this is critical. When Jewish scholars later translated the Hebrew Bible into Greek, the Septuagint, they translated tabor as omphalos.
Omphalos, the navel, the belly button. That's an incredibly physical word. It's not just important place, it sounds like the point of origin, of connection, like a literal navel cord.
It's entirely descriptive.
Yeah.
It points to a geographical axial convergence point, the physical spot where life starts, where everything connects. It's not figurative for them, it's architectural geographic.
Right.
So if Babel was the original center for human ascent, Ezekiel calling Jerusalem the umbilicus confirms it's the same reoccupied geography. The text, they argue, supports the material continuity.
Okay, that helps explain why this literalist view is so focused on the physical spot, the tabor, the omphalos. It means that this place is fixed, anchored, can't be moved.
And this idea, this geographical pinpointing, it carried on through history. It's not just Ezekiel. Think about later echoes. Josephus, the historian back in the 1st century, he called Jerusalem the umbilicus of the country. And it's why, for centuries in the medieval period, you see those TO maps, the ones organizing the known world. Jerusalem's always plunked right in the middle, the convergence point.
So scripture, history, even old maps seem to reinforce this idea. Jerusalem is physically, textually, the geographic center, the tabor. Okay, so that fixed spot is where humanity tried to reach up.
Right.
Now, if that's the starting point, human ambition going vertical, we need to look at the New Testament for the divine reversal.
Exactly. The whole New Testament story, seen through this literal lens, is God basically inverting Babel's project. But, and this is key, doing that inversion on the exact same physical axis.
So if Babel was the portal for humans going up, stacking bricks, then the New Jerusalem is the portal for God coming down.
And the scale of this counter project is just immense. John, in Revelation 21, describes the New Jerusalem descending from heaven, the dimensions 12,000 stadia high.
12,000 stadia, that's what, about 2,200 kilometers high?
Yeah, roughly 370 miles high.
2,200 kilometers, that's not just a big city. That's geometrically impossible for any city we know. How does impact theology handle that height and still stay literal?
They see it as the ultimate counter tower, the divine inversion of the ziggurat. It proves the reversal because it works the opposite way. It's not built by humans going up, it's built by God coming down.
Like a perfect inverted ziggurat.
Exactly. A structure defined by God's impossible geometry, replacing the space once held by the old Babel-Jerusalem structure.
So God is stacking his perfect city downwards onto the very spot where humanity stacked its imperfect one upwards. Okay, and the start of this whole cosmic descent process that begins with John the Baptist and Jesus.
Precisely. Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River, right near this geographic zone. That's the prototype for the descent. When Jesus is baptized, Matthew's gospel says, the heavens opened physically, and the Spirit descended like a dove onto him.
Not just a feeling or a vision, a physical event kicking off the divine reversal on that Babel axis.
Right. Where humans stack bricks for ascent, John opens the waters for descent. The Jordan becomes, in a way, the new inverted base of the tower. That baptism is the first moment the divine physically touches the world along that ancient vertical line.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because that individual event, the baptism, gets scaled up massively at the end of Revelation, doesn't it? The New Jerusalem itself descending from heaven. It's like the baptism of creation.
And the connection is explicitly linguistic, which for them proves the literal continuity of the action. The same Spirit that descended on one man, Jesus, in the Jordan, now descends upon the entire city in the apocalypse.
And the linguistic proof, the sort of smoke and gun for impact theology, is that they use the same Greek verb for both events.
Exactly. Both the description of the Spirit coming down at the baptism in Matthew 3:16 and the description of the city coming down in Revelation 21 use the identical Greek verb, katabainu.
Katabainu, meaning to descend, to come down.
Yes. And for this framework, that proves these aren't just, two separate metaphors or spiritual ideas that echo each other. They are two stages, first individual, then collective, of the same literal divine movement.
A movement aimed at reversing Babel's project.
Executed on the same physical spot, the Tabor Haaretz.
Right, so let's sum up this impact theology framework then. Jerusalem is literally reoccupied Babel, the umbilicus of the earth. And the whole New Testament story, from baptism right through to the New Jerusalem coming down, is the literal, physical, divine inversion of humanity's failed project. It closes the loop started in Genesis 11.
The whole system really hinges on that unbroken physical geography, that single spot.
Okay, so If this whole historical and spiritual axis begins in Genesis 11 with Babel trying to go up, and the immediate result of that failure was the literal confusion of tongues, the word balal, right, meaning confusion, what does this super literal theology see as the final concrete consequence of the divine descent on this very same axis? If the New Jerusalem closes Genesis, it must fix the original problem, right?
Exactly. If it's truly the closing of Genesis, it has to functionally, literally address the original curse. The divine reversal isn't complete until that judgment, the confusion, is undone.
Which points us straight to Acts chapter 2. We're back in Jerusalem, the Tabor Haaretz again. The Spirit descends with fire, the next stage after Jesus' individual baptism. And what happens?
The immediate undoing of the confusion of tongues.
Right there. People from everywhere suddenly understand each other. In Jerusalem. On that spot.
It's the tangible proof for them. Visible evidence that the divine reversal has been fully completed, right there on that ancient concrete site. The confusion of Babel is literally judged and replaced by universal understanding, built, as it were, on the same foundation. It's the final restoration of that axis.
Wow, that is a truly mind-bending geographical and linguistic deep dive. Definitely one of the most radical ways to read scripture I've encountered. Thanks for walking us through this literal continuity of Jerusalem and Babel.